So what is the aim and the theme of the Parish Mission? What is the theme? By now I think everybody should know. Hopefully, else we have done a bad job. What is the theme of the mission? The slogan? Anyone? If you have good eyesight, you can read it. It's what? Discipleship through community. So discipleship through community. So basically there are two elements to what we want to do. The first and the major aim is discipleship. And we want people to grow in discipleship. And discipleship is a process where believers help one another to become better followers of Jesus. Disciple simply is a follower of Jesus. Now, I will go a little bit more into what is discipleship is all about and how do we become disciples. But the other aspect is through community. And I don't have a lot of time tonight to go into that, but I just want to say a few words about it. So, discipleship is the real aim. Community is the means. And there are different means or different ingredients to our spiritual life as disciples. And we need to have a life of prayer, we need to have a life of sacraments, and so on. And I think that in most of the Catholics, Mass attendance is still quite the norm. Prayer may still be quite normal in the homes, or at least in church, maybe before the meal. But I think what is really a missing link for Catholics is often this word community. And a real sense of community, of coming together, and of sharing life together. And that's why, as the Parish Pastoral Council, the PPC, together with the priest, we discern this to be the vision for this parish mission, that we want to build community among each other. Because it's very difficult, or actually impossible, to really grow in the life of discipleship without being part of community. We are all part of community in the sense that we are part of the parish, but the parish has 6,000-7,000 parishioners. We don't even know them all by name, by face. Not even those, if you go for 11 o'clock, 11:30 Mass, you may not even know all the 11:30 Mass goers, and let alone that you know the 9 o'clock one and the 7 o'clock ones and the Saturday evening one and the Sunday evening one. So to be really community with 6,000 people is impossible. It just becomes an empty name. But for the Christian life, we need to grow with each other. We can't be in this journey alone. It's like a matchstick. If you light a matchstick, the fire will burn down in a few seconds. The light of our faith, the fire of our faith will also not continue to burn bright and strong if we are the only fuel to our own faith. Have that community support. You put a lot of wood together, and the fire will be bright and burn longer, and it will also be effective to the community by giving warmth and giving light. So community also all that place where we come together to foster our faith together, and to grow each other's faith, and also to reach out to the bigger community. Maybe a picture says it better. This is kind of the image of the Lone Ranger Christian. The Christian that thinks I can be Christian on my own, I can be Catholic on my own. But then when the storms of life come, when difficulties come, we may be hanging on the cliff and we will despair and it will be difficult. But the picture of community is more like this. The picture of the body of Christ is that there are people ahead of us who are pulling us onward. There are people behind us that are cheering us on. There are people that say, well, if you fall, then I will catch you. Especially like the last one, he says, well, if he can, then I also can. There's this sense of encouragement in community that, hey, if he can do it, I can also do it. In this parish, I'm involved in the family life ministry, which is very much a community. And a lot of families, they struggle with, how do we pray together? How do we raise our kids in the faith? It's the question that every Catholic family thinks about and may feel insecure about. But then, when I see other families doing it, it inspires me, or maybe I can also do that. And the small steps, the more small victories of other families may inspire me to also try something. And that's how we build each other's faith. So community is a very important element in the Parish Mission retreat, and we will talk a lot more about it. And of course, this is also where you come in, because we want to build those communities, especially in the neighborhoods, and the neighborhood Christian community to come together and to share faith together. Okay, the rest I just want to focus on discipleship. And what does it really mean to be a disciple? Okay? What is the goal of our life? What is the goal of our life? And purpose? What is the goal of our life? I hope by now you have figured it out. You have still a lot of time to figure it out. But I think most of us by now, we're old enough to maybe have figured out some kind of purpose to our life. What is the goal of life? So that we are not living aimlessly. What do we live for? What do you live for? To get to heaven, okay? To get to heaven, to be with God. And another word to say it is to become a saint. And the goal of our life is to become a saint because only saints go to heaven. Or rather, only saints enter heaven. We may not be a saint at the end of our life, but by the time we reach heaven, we need to be a saint. And only saints will see God face to face. So that's the goal of our life. And I just want to say that because I want to put things in perspective. Discipleship is actually only the bottom of the pyramid. That's the aim of our parish mission. The aim actually is much bigger. I hope that we can be a parish of saints. That would really be great. I also hope that we can be a parish full of apostles, meaning people who are not just followers of Jesus, but are so full of Jesus that they go out on a mission to bring Jesus to others, to live it out, maybe through a ministry, but also in the workplace, among your friends, to be that, to be on this journey of the new evangelization, to bring Jesus to others. The goal of our mission, hopefully in that sense more realistic, even though still quite high-end goal, is we hope that people can become disciples, that people can become true and followers of Jesus. And so that is the goal of our mission, to become disciples. And so to talk about the journey towards discipleship and what discipleship means, I will follow the ideas given by this author called Sherry Weddell, and Forming Intentional Disciples. Maybe some of you may have read the book or seen the book, and Forming Intentional Disciples by Sherry Weddell. Sherry Weddell was a Protestant who converted to Catholicism. She's an American, and she works for the Catherine Siena Institute. Actually, today is the feast of Catherine Siena. And her institute's one of the projects that she brought to the Catholic Church when becoming Catholic, she thought that in the Protestant world they have a very strong emphasis on you need to know your giftings, you need to know your charism so that you can serve. And so she brought that program to the Catholic world, thinking that it will be effective here as well. Then she was faced with some problems. The first problem that she faced was that Protestants and Catholics speak a different language. Even though they both speak English, but they just use different words, different lingo for the same realities. So what she did is she retranslated the program and made it Catholic lingo, Catholic explanations from a Catholic point of view. And so she thought, okay, now I have a program. It's called Called and Gifted. Maybe some of you have done it. It's an excellent program to discern your calling and your giftings in life, how I can serve best, and my God-given talents. Then she was actually faced with a different problem, and this actually led to her book, Forming Intentional Disciples, which is that she had made a thinking mistake. And I think that this mistake maybe is made by many of us, which is that she presupposed that all Catholics are therefore disciples of Jesus. The very fact that you're a Catholic means that you are a follower of Jesus. Now, if you're a follower of Jesus, definitely you would want to know your gifting so that you can better serve Jesus. This whole project of discerning your calling makes sense if you're a disciple. And so that's why in smaller Christian communities, it was quite effective. Because usually a lot of these smaller Christian communities, they are formed by people who are converts, who make an intentional choice to follow Jesus. But in the Catholic world, the reality is sometimes different. And we may look at the whole reality of the church, of our parishes. Okay, we come together because we all want to follow Jesus. But is that really true? Is it really so that all those 6,000 people that, or 3,000-4,000 people that come for Sunday Mass are really coming because they want to follow Jesus? And because they have really made that intentional choice to follow Him all the way? Or are there maybe Catholics who, yes, have a desire for Jesus, but maybe they aren't really yet at that level of discipleship? Maybe they are on their way to discipleship. And so what she did through some research, she came up with these thresholds of faith to re-look at reality and say, hey, maybe there are certain stepping stones toward becoming a disciple, and maybe the reality of parishes is that there are certain people still in certain levels towards discipleship and not really there yet. Not as a way to condemn them, but rather as a model of hope to say, hey, actually that can be meet you where you are and bring you one step further as we go along. So I just want to take a moment to look at those thresholds. Okay, so the thresholds of conversion. Taking the idea that the outer layer is the non-believing or even the non-trusting, those that are not at all at peace with the church, maybe even defiant of the church. Now, the waters of baptism are meant to be this step in which we become immersed in Christ and we decide to let everything go and follow Him all the way. And so, baptism should serve as that final step towards becoming a disciple. Now, I think for those who were baptized last Easter, I at least hope and I would think that most of them would really make that decision to become a follower of Jesus very intentionally as they have made that journey of conversion, as they have gone through the RCA process, and being also of an adult age, they would make a conscious decision that, hey, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to follow Jesus all the way. I'm a little bit hesitant to really call all of them disciples because statistics have shown that actually a large part of the neophytes leave the church within 3 years. And so that's quite a bad statistic. And actually that looks quite bad on us because I think RCA has really served as a warm blanket of welcoming people, but then when they meet the real church and the coldness of the pews, a lot of people have left. Maybe also because they haven't found community yet. They haven't found this welcoming crowd of Catholics to say, hey, let's come together and continue to keep that fire awake and alive together. For me, and I think for most of us here, we weren't baptized in the waters of baptism at Easter when we were adults, but quite a lot of us would have been baptized as infants. Our parents would have carried us to the baptismal font where the priest had baptized us. And so we were made Catholics. My parents never asked me, do you want to be Catholic? Do you want to follow Jesus? And they make this decision for me, and I did the same for my children. And this is our good Catholic practice, and I'm all for it. But yet, so in other words, you can become Catholic without your consent. You can become Catholic against your choice or without your choice. But the question is, can you become a disciple without your choice? Is there such a thing as an unintentional disciple? I'm a disciple because, my parents chose me to be a disciple. Can I really be a follower of Jesus without my consent, without my desire to do so? And so she came up with this phrase, intentional disciple, which I think is very thought-provoking because it's really saying a round ball. Well, obviously a ball is round. There's no such a thing as a square ball. If it was a square, it wasn't a ball. And so discipleship must be intentional, but by merely adding that word intentional disciple, it's just thought-provoking. You get people to think that, actually, can there be such a thing as an unintentional disciple? And then, if there can't be such a thing as an unintentional disciple, then what does it mean? When do people really make that choice? How do people make that choice? How do people really become disciples? So, she then came up with these thresholds leading towards discipleship. Now the first threshold she calls trust. I just call them first and then I go through one by one. The second she calls curiosity, the third openness, the fourth one seeking, and then the final step is to become an intentional disciple. And so, at the first step, somebody comes to the place of trust. From a kind of an animosity towards the church and faith and Jesus, and somebody comes to a place of mere trust. It isn't very deep, but it's just a simple step of, okay, I'm okay with the church. I'm okay with Jesus, there is no animosity, and I feel safe with it. It can be for a convert, maybe it can be one of you. It can be simply a relationship with you. A friend of you may know you and say, well, I don't know about the church, I don't know about the faith, but I know you and you're okay. And that's why, okay, I don't mind if you ask me to come along, I will come along with you and to check out the Alpha course or whatever. You can be that link of trust, and to be the builder of the bridge, and to build a bridge of trust towards the church, to kind of be okay, and to, I think this trust can also be very much become part of culture. And I'm okay to be part of the Catholic Church. I'm okay to be part of the Catholic culture. I'm okay to wear a cross around my neck. And it's who I am. But don't ask me all the difficult questions. It's just I'm Catholic. That's all. I don't know anything, but I'm Catholic. I think we know a lot of them, and we know a lot of people that they are just okay with the church. They're okay with the faith. They're okay with Jesus. But what it really means in their life, they actually also don't know. It may just be this mere step of trust. The next step could be the step of curious. The person starts asking questions. The person becomes curious about the faith. I hope that all of you have met some curious people in your life, and they will ask you a lot of questions. It's usually quite interesting because they want to know why do Catholics go for Mass, what is Mass about, why Mary. They have a lot of questions about Jesus, maybe about morality, and so they want to know answers. And especially in this modern world, they will search Google for all the answers, whether right or wrong. And this is where, again, as Catholics, we have a huge responsibility to help them and those who are curious. The curious will ask a lot of questions, but the questions are still very much on the head level. They want to know about Jesus. It is still, they are interested, but they are interested from a distance. They want to check it out. It's kind of like window shopping. And they're not ready to go in and because else the service clerk may ask them to buy the shoe. And they just want to look from a window. They want to know what the store sells. And they want to know about the faith. The next step is the step to become open. And this is a crucial turning point in the road of conversion. And the open person starts to realize that if I'm going to follow this Jesus, if I'm going to become a disciple of Jesus, it's going to cost me something. It's going to change my life. I can't remain the same person I was yesterday if I decide to be a follower of Jesus. If I really take the gospel serious, if I take the homily serious, that doesn't mean just something for Sunday morning, that means something for Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. It's going to change the way I do business, the way I treat my family. It's going to affect my marriage, it's going to affect my family relationships, it's going to affect my relationship with friends. It's going to change everything of my life. It becomes a realization of, if I'm going to follow, something needs to change in me. Doesn't mean this person is ready to change yet, but at least he becomes aware of this change, and the person he starts to consider, am I ready for that? Am I ready for the change? Am I ready for it all the way? And that's why Jesus in one of the parables, he says, well, if you're going to build a house, better you count your money first. Make sure you have enough. Make sure that you are ready to go for it all the way. Because if you're going to build a house and halfway you're out of money, then everybody will start laughing at you. Are you ready for the change? Then the fourth step is that of seeking. Like the curious person, the seeker also asks a lot of questions. But the questions of the seeker are very different. The question of the seeker isn't to know about Jesus, but the seeker wants to know Jesus. It seems a little different, but it's huge. To know about Him, to know about doctrines of the faith, to know about the church, or to really want to know Him. How can I meet Him? How can I hear His voice? How can I grow in prayer? How can I grow in a relationship with Jesus? What does He want of my life? It becomes very personal. I think another key marker of the seeker is that the seeker becomes urgent about it. No time to waste. I want it all and I want it now. And finally, then the step to become disciple, intentional disciple. I think The story of Jesus at the Sea of Galilee maybe is a great example. Jesus comes to the Sea of Galilee and he sees there those fishermen and he says, "Come follow me." He just says 3 words. You know, the problem that we have when we come for Mass and we hear all those stories from the Gospel is that we have heard them over and over again. And we are so familiar with them that they don't shock us at all. But actually, if you would read them with a certain freshness, I think that this story is very shocking. This man comes to visit these fishermen and he says 3 words, and after 3 words, they don't ask any question, they don't consult anybody, they don't talk to their father, they just leave everything behind and follow him. It's a crazy story. It's the most radical story that you can find. 3 words and they leave everything behind. I wonder if Jesus knocks on our door, maybe later that night you're home and he knocks on your door, he says physically in front of the door, and he says 3 words, he says, "Come follow me. Will you leave your house behind, sell your job, everything?" And I think I would have a lot of questions. I at least want to know, okay, how are you going to provide for me, and what is your plan, and what is the vision? They had no questions, they just left. There is a radicalness in their willingness to follow this Jesus. To follow him all the way. But following him means all the way. There is no such a thing as a 50% disciple or a part-time disciple. Discipleship is either all the way or you're not a disciple. It's going to cost you everything. It's going to change your life. And it needs to become a radical decision. So where do we find these people? Now, we can look at this scheme and think of non-Catholics becoming Catholics, and we can apply them, but because we're reaching out to Catholics, I just want to look at the Catholic world, at the parish. Let's just look for a moment at the parish, and where do we find these different people? Where do we find people in the parish that are simply in the first threshold only? They're not yet in the second threshold. Where would we find such people? Any ideas? Please don't call any names. I'm not asking you to any names. I just want to think in broad categories. Where would we, for example, find people who may just be in the stage of trust and not yet any further? Where could we find such Catholics? Yes, on Sunday. On Sunday where? So the Sunday Catholic. So the Sunday Catholic, the Sunday Catholic is a really great term. I learned it in Singapore. When I came to Singapore, I learned there's such thing as Sunday Catholic. No, because I'm from Holland, and if in Holland you go for Mass every Sunday, every priest will be looking for you because you're the best Catholic ever. We want you to lead every ministry, because here we have a Catholic who comes for Mass every Sunday. Not just once a month or twice a month, he comes every Sunday. In Holland, that's like the benchmark of success. And I'm very happy that I found that actually here it has become the bare minimum. Actually, most people who use the term actually mean it's below minimum. It's kind of like, it's a denigrating term, like you're only a Sunday Catholic, you're nothing more. And that's great because yes, the Catholic life, the life of faith shouldn't be just Sunday only. It shouldn't be about Sunday Mass only. There should be more. It should be life transforming. Of course, for most it means we should be active in the ministry. Although I think that's not always the truth. You can be active also in many other ways. Maybe in the world, the way you serve in your family, in your workplace. I don't want to be negative towards the mother of 5 children who says, well, I don't have time to serve in a church ministry because I'm serving my 5 children and bringing Christ to them. That could be a calling at that particular point in life, and which is great. So sometimes we use it maybe a bit too harshly, but I definitely understand what you mean, Sunday Catholic. And so Sunday Catholic could be maybe just in that very first stage of trust. They're okay being Catholic on Sunday, but that's it. I don't really pay attention to the homily, and the sooner I get out of it, okay, great, and then we can have lunch. And so, and the pew Catholic, some people call it the pew Catholic. Any other places, maybe we can find some of the people who are merely in the threshold of trust other than Sunday Catholic? Maybe also suggest another place beyond even the Sunday Catholic. Yes, partners who are non-Catholic. Okay, yeah, they could be in this place. It could also be, I think in marriages very often, maybe there's one of the couple who is very involved in the faith, the other one maybe kind of hop along, whether it's the husband or the wife. And so that person could be that person who's barely interested. It's okay, I'm okay to go along. I would want to dare to say, I know this is a bit pushing it, but I would actually dare to say that there may be people who are merely in the threshold of trust who are actually active in the ministry. Could it be that actually you're even active in the church, you're actively involved in the ministry, but it is simply a culture. It's simply part of what you do. Could it be, and I have nothing against choirs, so please, you're singing the choir great, but could it be, because I'm going to use the example of choir, could it be that some people sing in the choir simply because it's too boring to sit in the pews? I like to sing, why don't I sing in the choir? At least I have something to do during Mass. And rather than that it helps them grow closer to Jesus, maybe it's just a mere distraction. It could be. Could it be that maybe somebody says, well, since I need to come for Mass, let me be a warden, and half the time I can be outside of church and direct the traffic, rather than spending the time in Mass. Could it be? I don't want to generalize and say all the wardens are. That's not at all what I'm trying to say at all. But could it be that people misuse ministry as a facade? And so that simply, okay, I'm doing something, I don't feel guilty, but actually, I'm not growing closer to Jesus at all. For some people, maybe ministry is the greatest obstacle of becoming a disciple of Jesus. For some. Curious. Where do we find curious people? Where in the church do we find curious people? People that start asking questions about the faith. Think of some ministries. Where would you find them? RCIA. Yes, definitely. RCIA. People come because they have questions, they join RCIA. And they become inquirers, which is the curious stage. Other ministries? Activities we have. Bible study. Bible study, people come because they have questions. Yes. Alpha ministry. Landings. Discover, yes, especially, yeah, great. So there may be all these ministries where people come because they want to know a bit more. And they want to have their question answers. Where do we find the person that becomes open? Where do we see a group of people say, well, actually, they start realizing that if I'm in it, I'm going to need to change. It's going to cost me more. CER, yeah, they may go for retreats in the diocese, in the parish, wherever, like conversion experience retreats. Say, hey, I need to change something in my life. I want a more radical Catholic life. And they may go for retreats. Yeah, very good. I especially like the example because I think often after retreats we see that people take a step forward. And then we may straight away have the mindset, oh, now they have become disciples. But it could be just means that they move from trust to curiosity, or they move from curiosity to openness, or maybe they skip one, they went from trust to openness. Often the retreats we may step forward. It depends on where we are than where we end up. And sometimes we need more steps to go further. Maybe again the RCIA, I think that we find people who are willing beyond the inquiry stage to say, hey, actually I want to be in all the way. I know that it's going to cost me something, but I'm going to stay. Where do we find the seeker? Maybe I'll just give you an example of one person that I know, and that became a seeker, which was my godson. When he came to this parish, and Father knew he was from Holland, he connected him with me, and so he had a lot of questions. He was the typical curious guy. He had a lot of questions, and Father had no time to answer it, so he asked me to answer all his questions. So I met up with him for lunch very often, but along the way he became open. He knew that this isn't just about questions, it's about a life-changing experience. It's going to cost me something. And at some point I realized that his questions had changed. It wasn't just about asking questions for the sake of knowing an answer, but he wanted to know, how can I meet Jesus? How can I talk to Jesus? How do I know that when I hear something in prayer, whether that's the voice of God or not the voice of God, how can I discern? He wanted to know how to have a personal relationship with Jesus. And what defines this person, the seeker, is that the seeker is very urgent about it. I'll share a very sad story about it. Last year I went for a Protestant pastors conference, and in this conference I met one pastor who used to be Catholic and became Protestant. And since she knew I was Catholic, we had a nice conversation over a meal. And she shared the story of how she became Protestant. And for me, it was heartbreaking. The story is that when she was a teenager, when she was maybe 15 years old, she had come to a point in her life that she just wanted to know, who is this Jesus? I want to know him. I want to know more about him. I want to follow him. And she came to this stage of seeking. She wasn't satisfied with her life. She wanted to know who this Jesus is and how can I meet him. And so she did what she knew to be good as a Catholic. She went to the priest. And luckily she didn't tell me his name. So she went to this priest and she said, Father, I want to know this Jesus. Do you have any Bible study, or do you have anything that can help me meet this Jesus? And the priest simply asked two questions. Have you done catechism? Yes. Have you been confirmed? Yes. Then no need Bible study. And the moment that she had left the office of that priest, she had also left the church. And then that is the problem of the seeker. Because the seeker is urgent. When you miss it, you miss it. If you don't respond to the need, they're going to find it elsewhere. Because their hunger is real hunger. If you meet really a hungry person, if you're not going to give him food, he's going to find it elsewhere. He will go as far as to steal it. If you're really hungry, you're not going to wait for some council meeting to say, well, maybe we can do some subsidy. And if you're really hungry, you need it now. And when we become spiritually hungry, when we really want to meet Jesus, that hunger needs to be satisfied. And unfortunately, the church, in this case, couldn't provide the spiritual food that this person was longing for. Of course, we would have had it, but somehow the priest didn't connect that person in the right programs. So that puts also the pressure on us as Catholics. Are we really reaching out? Are we really there for those who are seeking to help them find Jesus? So that when they are ready, at some point they can make that decision and say, hey, I'm willing to drop my nets. I'm willing to follow him all the way, and wherever, whenever. So these are American statistics. I don't think they are totally accurate for the Singapore situation, but at the same time, I don't think they are totally off either. And she came to the conclusion that on an average parish, it is probably only the mere 5% who may really have reached the stage of truly becoming an intentional disciple of Jesus, and of active Catholics, which is, at least in Singapore, usually still the norm. We still go for church, and we probably find ourselves in one of these other 4 stages on the way. And so, in America, there was this group of young people that came together, and they formed a community, and they didn't have a name, so they called themselves Neighbors Lay Group. And they wanted to follow Jesus radically. So they came up with 7 rules to say, okay, this is the norm that we want to live. This is the lifestyle that we want to live. And so they called them its normals. So they came up with 7 its normals, and I'll just read them out to you and see how you feel about it. And so for them, they say, it's normal for lay Catholics to have a living, growing love relationship with God. It is normal for lay Catholics to be excited Christian activists. It is normal for lay Catholics to be knowledgeable about their faith, the Bible, the doctrine and moral teachings of the Church, and even the history of the Church. It is normal for lay Catholics to know what their charisms of service are and to be using them effectively in fulfillment of their vocation and call in life. It is normal for lay Catholics to know that they have a vocation, mission in life, primarily in the secular world, given to them by God. It is normal for lay Catholics to be actively engaged in discerning and living this vocation. It is normal for lay Catholics to have the fellowship of other committed lay Catholics available to them to encourage, nurture, and discern as they attempt to follow Jesus. So basically community. It is normal for the local parish to function consciously as a house of formation for lay Catholics, which enables and empowers lay Catholics to do 1 to 6. So I don't know how you feel about it, whether this is your normal. I think that in most parishes, if somebody lives this normal, especially if this person is a young guy and not yet married, and you live these 7 its normals, what does every Catholic say to this person? You should be a priest. And if you're a woman, you should be a sister. You know, this is our concept. And we have made these normals as something up there, and if you really actually do live it, then we all think you should be a priest. As if this is the normal for some elect group within the church, some elite. This is not for the normal Catholics, for those who have work and family. But this is actually, this should be the norm. It's not the normals as in, and often these normals are perceived as above normal, but commonly understood. But what is commonly understood as normal is in fact below normal. And since it's far below the normal, these normals are not normal in the sense of being ordinary, but in the sense of being normative. I think this is where we want to go as a parish. To build a parish where we say, actually, we know our faith. We know about Jesus. I think that our young people, they should go to school and not be laughed at by their Protestant brothers in the faith and say, you don't know your Bible, you don't know your faith, and any question you can't answer. But we actually have a living relationship with Jesus. And we know our faith, we own our faith, so that we can spread it. We know our vocation in life. You know, vocation is one of those other things. And I often go to Sunday Mass in SFX Parish, and every prayers of the faithful, they add one prayer for vocations. And sometimes they are beautifully formulated, but sometimes it goes a bit like, Lord, we ask that all those who have a vocation may enter seminary. And then I'm thinking in the pew, okay, so what am I going to do with my wife and my children in the seminary? And if all those who have a vocation need to enter the seminary, it is weird. You know, it is this concept that vocation is only for some elect group. It's only for priests and religious. But all of us have a calling. God has a plan with each and every one of our lives. And the question is, are you aware of your calling? Do you know what your calling is in life? Are we living that calling? Are we discerning that calling? And not just discerning when I was 18 years old, but am I continually discerning whether I'm 18 or 80 years old? Because my vocation until I die never ends. Am I asking every day, God, what do you want me to do today? Where do you want me to serve? How do you want me to serve? That should be the life of a Catholic. That should be the normal life, the normative life.